I think it's always good to have questions, and it's always nice to have questions answered. So for anyone that may be new, I'm Eve, and I'm a international student at Peking University, a freshman, currently on the economics track, which may change, and I'm probably going to focus in on finance once we do like change our specific major within our college in the School of Economics. But that's basically the journey that I've been on right now, and there's been lots of ups and downs, so I'm going to answer some questions that you guys have, some through the community posts that I sent and others through private messages and such. So let's just get started first with this list, and this is going to be completely like off the top of my head. I'm just going to answer it. I don't have like any draft or anything, so you're just going to hear my like honest, candid responses to these questions, which I think is often the most like unfiltered and truthful. Let's just go from it, and these are, I'm going to answer them in no particular order. So first question that I see here is it easy to study bachelor in Chinese? So like a bachelor's degree in Chinese, because I'm also planning to study a bachelor degree in the Chinese language. So that is a good question, and first of all, good luck on your journey in pursuing a bachelor's degree in Chinese. And I would say that it's not the easiest thing in the world, especially, it obviously depends on your Chinese proficiency level, right? If you're like fluent in Chinese, like 100% on an academic level, I would say that it's not going to be as big of a challenge versus if you've never been in an academic setting learning Chinese, because that's obviously going to be a lot harder for you to kind of get not only accustomed to like college level courses, but also college level courses in Chinese, right? So like I have some friends that actually did high school in China, like in different like provinces and such. So they're like, they went to like a regular high school in China. So they're very accustomed to like the teaching style and learning in Mandarin and kind of like the very test-based learning procedures of China, I guess. And they don't have that language barrier necessarily, because some of them, even their first language is Chinese. So in that situation, college should not be as big of a challenge. But for someone like me who has a certain degree of Chinese proficiency but is definitely not like fluent on the academic level, it's extremely challenging, especially when you have to learn like specific subjects that require a lot of academic terminology, for example chemistry, or even like I would say economics is a little bit easier because like some of the terms that are used are more common language to some degree, or they're a little bit more self-explanatory, versus like chemicals, like that's just something you have to know, and otherwise if you had never learned it before, there's not like, you don't typically start saying Chinese chemicals in daily conversation. But it's kind of like that, I would say. And also writing essays has been very difficult for me because I think so much faster in English and I write so much faster in English. So a lot of the times when I just like, when I'm in a time crunch, I will just write the essay in English first and then go back and translate it and look through if there's any issues with the translation. But I think that's just kind of what I've been experiencing in terms of like the challenges, but I do hope that it gets better, and I'm sure it does get better once you get kind of accustomed to learning in Mandarin. And I think after the first year it should be like, if you can get past the first year, I think you can make it all 4 years for your bachelor's degree. So great question. And another question I see here is, what are rewarding things about studying at Peking University? Well, that is a very loaded question, I would say, and since I'm only a first year, I'm not entirely sure specifically of what rewards studying will provide me with in the future necessarily, like, but I would say right now, immediately, the first thing that comes to mind is like just the international experience, I guess, because there's a very diverse student body at Peking University. There's like thousands of international students. Most of them, I'm pretty sure a large portion are actually graduate or PhD students, and undergrads typically make up a smaller portion, but I would say still it's really nice to interact with all kinds of people from all across the world, and also just getting to interact with the locals, because I am of Chinese heritage. I did want to get closer to like my Chinese culture and the language, and it's been really nice to kind of meet people who grew up here and kind of know the customs a little bit better, and it's been really fun to interact with them, I would say, and just feel slightly closer to my culture and my language and such. And if you're not of Chinese heritage, I would say Peking University is also great because everyone is just, for the most part, very like willing to interact and sociable, and everyone's very nice, I would say. At least in the international student body, from everyone that I've met, we're all like very like kind of for each other. I would say among the locals there's probably a slightly more like competitive nature, but that's that's understandable because I mean I feel like in any college there's always going to be that kind of like grind. In Chinese we call it like 卷, so it's kind of like that competitive, like constantly competing with each other and yourself. But other than that, it's been really nice. And like I have a friend that's an international student and she's here for exchange, and I think especially for exchange too, like even more like there's, because you're not there for all 4 years, I think everyone is probably a little bit more laid back and they're just trying to enjoy the experience, so I think it's definitely worthwhile. And also another thing would be the food. The cafeterias are so good. Like there's so many different options. I know a lot of my friends are like, oh, I'm already tired of cafeteria food, but I personally, like, after having lived in the US for so long and eating the cafeteria food at my school, which was like not like horrible, I don't want to like bash out my school or anything like that, but compared to the cafeterias at Peking University, my school's cafeteria, let's just say, not the best thing in the world. And so Peking University has like I think 9 different cafeterias on campus, and then the biggest one is Jiayuan, which has 4 floors of different like cuisines. There's like the first floor is a buffet kind of style, second floor is like cuisines from different like countries, and third floor is kind of like Chinese fast food, which is actually pretty good, I would say. And then with like mala tang and hot pot, and the fourth floor is like Western fast food, which like it's Western fast food, but there's like steak and there's like grilled filet, there's grilled pork, there's hamburgers, so there's pizza, there's all kinds of things, and there's a little bakery, and it's just so nice. And I think just like the food is definitely really good, and it's also extremely cheap. So like typically I spend like usually not over 20 yuan for a meal, and that's like about like $3. So I would say that in comparison it's definitely a lot more affordable in China to have meals and such. Obviously that's also factoring in like the overall income of the Chinese population, but if you're used to like prices in America, then it will seem extremely affordable, I would say. And then other than that, I feel like, yeah, the main thing is just the community and the amazing food, and the campus is very pretty as well. And I guess since I'm on this subject, I also will say one of the cons of being at Peking University, not Peking University, but just like in Beijing. In Beijing, the weather is very dry, I would say, and it's much colder because I'm from Texas and I'm very used to like winters that typically don't go below 32 degrees Fahrenheit. And last Monday it was 28 degrees Fahrenheit in the morning and I was freezing, and I'm not used to having to wear gloves either typically, so my hands, they took a toll on my hands, the weather. But that's just something I'll probably also have to get accustomed to. And I mean, there are other parts, like every area has a different temperature, so I think it's just a matter of getting used to that. But and then the next question, so did you end up finding a place to rent? That's a great question. I did end up finding a place, but it was actually the dorm because there's like a wait list. And so the dorms at Global Village, which is the place where international students live in, they, like, as the school year goes on, there's some people that may not have actually moved into the campus, or people that decided that they didn't want to live in the dorms at Global Village, and so people will kind of like 退房, so like return their rooms or move out and whatnot, and then they'll call people from the wait list. And so I was able to get off that wait list, and I now live in Zhongguan Xingyuan Global Village in the dorms, and it's nice because it's like a 2-person like apartment, almost like dorm, and so there's like a common living area, and then each person has their own small room, and it's not super big, but compared to the dorms that mainland locals live in, which is like 4-tier room, I would say the conditions are a lot better. It is quite a bit more expensive, so I'm considering about if I have the option to maybe move into the on-campus dorms for my college, UMP, there's Central Ulo, Building 35, which allows for international students and local students to live in. But this year they didn't open it up to international students because they admitted too many local students, so the dorms were full, and the dorm is only so big, and so if there's that many people, they can't really let in any openings for international students. So we'll see how that goes next year. And then another question is this from the same person. What are the community centers, libraries, and public transit like in Beijing? So community centers, I'm not entirely sure what you're referring to, but I can answer libraries. I haven't been to the libraries in Beijing, but the library in Peking University is really big and really great. Lots of open study spots, which is awesome, and there's this really like pretty kind of setup. I don't really know how to describe it, but if you guys like, I can give a tour of the library at some point this year. Also of the cafeteria, if that's something you guys are interested in, let me know down below in the comments. But the libraries are really amazing, I would say. And then public transit is extremely convenient. Like where I live from Dallas, in Dallas, Texas, there's not like a lot of public transit, I would say. Like people, like I don't think I've ever rode the subway in Texas, and I don't think I've taken like a public bus really either, because everyone just uses their cars. But the way it's set up here in Beijing, it's really nice, because there's like, I think throughout China and like the more city like areas, most places have like subway stops like in various locations, so you can pretty much ride the subway to go anywhere. Like obviously once you get off, you might have to walk a little bit depending on where you're trying to go, but I would say it's extremely convenient and super affordable compared to like calling a taxi. So I really appreciate the public transportation, I would say, especially as a student who doesn't have like a huge budget to splurge on taxis. And it's just also kind of gratifying when you like realize that, oh, like I only spent 3 yuan on a subway versus it would be like 30 yuan for a taxi. Hold on, someone's calling me. Okay, sorry about that. I don't even remember what I was talking about, but yeah, I think it was something about, yes, public transportation is amazing, and if you do come to Beijing, I do recommend riding the subway, because it's not like, I don't really know, but I've heard stereotypes about like the New York subway, but I would say the Beijing subways are pretty good. And then any restaurant recommendations in Beijing? I'm going back after 7 years of studying abroad and want to find some good food. That is a great question. I appreciate your question, but I actually haven't been to many restaurants like outside, because like most of the time I just eat in the cafeterias because there's so many different options, I would say, and it's a lot cheaper than going out to restaurants. But I guess in terms of restaurants, some that I have tried, I guess there's this place called Lü Cha. It's green tea, like translating to English, and it's super good. They have, I don't know from what province that food is from, but there's different types of like, all different types, like there's fensi and there's xia, there's yu, there's rou. It's just really good overall. Lots of different options and not too expensive. There's lots of Lü Cha dian, like there's lots of Lü Cha stores, lots of Lü Cha chain stores in certain malls, shopping malls. So if you do ever find one, I would recommend trying it out. It's really good. Other than that, I think that there's also this place called Dayali, which is a place that has like really good roasted duck, like Peking duck, and my brother really loves duck, and so we went there sometimes when we came over for break. So that place is also really good. They also have a really good kung pao chicken, or kung pao jiding, but it's like authentic kung pao jiding, not like Panda Express kung pao jiding. And then other than that, I mean, there are definitely places, I just cannot think of them off the top of my head, and I just haven't like gone out too often, but you can like definitely look at Dazhong Dianping, which is like a place where people leave reviews of different restaurants, and then based on that kind of like decide what restaurants to go to. And that's so exciting that you're coming back after 7 years, and I hope you have an amazing time. So Next question. What are you studying at PKU and why you chose it? So I mentioned this earlier in the video, but I'm studying economics. So I guess I'm a part of the School of Economics right now. And because there's different schools, there's like School of Public Management, School of Economics, School of Natural Sciences, School of like international relations and stuff. And so I'm School of Economics, and then within the School of Economics there's different like sub majors, I guess you could say, and there's like finance, there's definitely other ones, school of finance, there's like insurance, there's just like economic theory that you can choose from. And so I'm hoping to probably decide and go towards finance, which is what I've been picking my courses based on. So like I have like Gaoshu, advanced mathematics, and I'm gonna have to learn linear algebra next year. Those are like the kind of fundamental courses, and then it's typically 3rd and 4th year when you start to choose your like actual major based courses, and that is where it gets interesting. So because I'm in UMPay, we do have the flexibility of changing our major, so that may change in the future, but I guess we will just see how that goes. And then why did I choose it? Sorry, I just had like a major brain fart. Hold on. I just realized that my earring fell on the ground. So now you guys can watch me put this earring in. It's a little awkward. Okay, now we're good. So why did I choose economics? I would say that I took AP macroeconomics when I was in high school, and I really liked what I was learning, and I was also pretty good at the class. I would say like my grade in that class was pretty decent, and it wasn't as hard as some of my other classes, and so that made me like it even more, because I feel like people often like what they're good at, and that was definitely the case for me as well. And also I just feel like, I mean, I think it'd be cool to kind of get to maybe go into consulting or investment banking. I don't really know too much about exactly like what the lifestyle is like that and what's expected of me if I do go into that, but I think that's just like something that I would be interested in and pursuing. Hold on, someone is at the door. Sorry, someone was at the door. I had to go grab it. It was quite deep. Okay, what was I talking about? So I guess that's kind of like why I chose economics. Like, so I'm kind of still unsure about what I want to do with my life, but I think that will probably become more clear as I kind of take more classes, get more experiences in the market and just in general in life, and hopefully I will be able to figure out exactly what direction I want to go towards soon. And then so someone else asks that, someone asked about my study schedule, and I'm glad that you asked, because I think that's something that's really crucial, especially for students, because it can be very overwhelming, and I totally understand that. And I really hope that if you're watching this, that what I am about to say will help you to some degree, and I hope that your uni is going well. But I would say for study schedule, I don't have like a very like strict study schedule, and it would definitely depend on like the day, like how many classes I have and such. But I try to, like, any time that I have, like when I'm not taking classes, like in between or whatever, I will like complete any assignments and homework that I have in advance, and ideally be ahead of schedule. And I think that with college it's also been a little bit hard to like kind of adjust, because it's not like where you go to school at 9 a.m. and then you get off at 4 and then you go home and just do your stuff. So it's like it's hard to like map out, like that's a very like complicated question, I feel like. And if you guys are interested, I could also do like kind of like a how I study video in the future, but right now I'm honestly still kind of trying to figure out like exactly like kind of what schedule I'm set on. But I think that it's just maximizing the usefulness of your time and making sure that when you like in between classes that you're getting in assignments done, and also having a planner really helps. So in terms of keeping things organized. And yeah, that's basically how I've been doing it so far. But if you guys want a more detailed video on how I study, please let me know down below in the comments as well. And thank you for the question. Thank you everyone who asked questions. I really appreciate that. And if you have any further questions, please don't hesitate to let me know as well. And so someone asked what kinds of stationery I use and what are famous stationery brands in China. So I'm not actually sure what you mean by stationery, but I think you're probably referring to like notebooks and stuff, and kind of like typical things that you use like when you're studying. I don't really have a particular brand that I like love, but I do like for pens, I really like to use Papermate before, and there's like this I forget, like I really like to use these pens as well, like the Pilot pens, which are really amazing. And notebooks, I would say before I used like Five. I think there's this brand called Five. I don't really remember specifically. Yeah, I think it was just five, like 5 stars or something. And those notebooks were typically pretty sturdy and nice. But in China, I feel like there's a lot of people that like to use like goods that are imported from Japan, which because like the things are super cute and like different pens and stuff. But I don't really know specifically what brands are like very popular, to be honest, because like I've mostly just been using my iPad and my iPad pen to kind of take notes, so I haven't been relying too much on like kind of stationery products, I would say. But that's just my answer to that question. I hope that answered your question. So someone says, I just want to ask how you manage to overcome all the pressure on your own, like language barrier and peer pressure, everyone in class going further than you. So that's also a really great question. I would say that it's definitely been very hard, and I would say the first month especially, I think I was like super excited and joining all these clubs, but I think somewhere in between like the first and second month I started to really feel like it hit where like I wasn't able to keep up, and especially leading up to midterms. Like if you've watched my midterms video, you'll know I was very stressed out during that time period. But I think in terms of overcoming, I think I just constantly remind myself why I'm here, what I'm aiming to do, and just kind of reassuring myself that I can do this, that I am strong, that I am capable. Because I think the most important part is just believing in yourself, because if you don't believe in yourself, then no one is going to believe in you. Like even if other people believe in you, it's not going to help, because you're the one that actually has to follow through and push through all these challenges. And so I think just keeping in mind like what you're aiming towards and what you're working towards, and with that in mind, just not giving up, but also not pushing yourself over the edge to the point where you can't handle anything. And I think it's important to kind of gauge your situation, and if you're in a situation where you're feeling too stressed, too tired, then there are certain times where you should not give up, but just kind of let it go, I feel like. And I think that's just kind of the mindset that I've been using to kind of survive these past 3 months, and it has worked overall so far. And just also making sure that I'm not constantly in study mode. I also have taken the time to kind of pursue the things that I love, whether it be practicing hockey, attending swimming practice, hanging out with friends, going to coffee shops, having lunch, and just going to all kinds of like social events, gatherings and stuff. Because I feel like if you let yourself become too secluded and too wrapped up in your own thoughts, then it can be really hard to kind of withstand like all that pressure, because that's just going to continue building up. And if you never let yourself decompress, then it's just not something sustainable. And I think with that in mind, I have really just been trying to enjoy life but also keep up with my studies, and so far it's been manageable overall. And it's just keeping acknowledging the negative emotions that you might be experiencing, but also really appreciating and living in the moment rather than delaying that happiness. Because if you keep constantly delay yourself of that gratification, then you're just going to be stuck, and that's not somewhere I want to be in, and that's not somewhere I hope that anyone else has to be in. So just with that mindset, I think it will definitely help in terms of managing all the stress and pressure. And also just like in terms of like the peer pressure, I would say and the peer pressure and the language barrier, I mean, language barrier, just constantly trying to improve, constantly trying to learn new things, and telling myself that it will get better, and it has gotten better. And then peer pressure, I would say it's just kind of like focusing on yourself, because what everybody else, like, I think it's important to just kind of close them out sometimes in terms of not comparing yourself with others, because it doesn't matter whether that person got like 100 on a test or 99 or 98. As long as you are getting better compared to like your past self, that's what matters, because you are the person living your life, not anyone else, right? So that was a great question. Thank you. Someone else asked, how do you find motivation to keep studying when you feel demotivated or tired? And I think that's very similar to the question that the other person asked just a second ago, and it's just keeping like that mindset of what I'm working towards. Even when I'm super tired, I remind myself why I'm studying, why I'm here, what I want to accomplish, and in order to accomplish that, what I need to do right now in this present moment. And I think that also really helps, and also just taking that time to relax as well, and not constantly being in that tense like study mode. I guess to end this little Q&A session, I'm going to answer this question regarding if and when I get little time to myself, what do I enjoy doing? That is a great question. Like I said, I played hockey when I was younger, and I've played all the way up until 12th grade actually, and PKU has an ice hockey team, and I really enjoy going to those practices, and just the community is really nice, everyone is really friendly, and getting to play a sport that I really love has been awesome. And also just kind of like switching mindsets, like going from like the study mindset to like kind of the sport mode mindset, has also been really helped to kind of like decompress. And I really love reading, but I haven't been reading as much because there aren't any books in English, or there probably are, but I just, like, in the library they're all Chinese, and I haven't had the time to kind of challenge myself to complete a book in Chinese, which I really need to do, to be honest. But I do like reading, and then also swimming has been fun as well, and going out to coffee shops and talking with friends and just catching up on life. I do want to go to an escape room in China soon, because I've heard that the escape rooms are very dynamic and very 刺激, very different from the escape rooms in the US, because like typically the ones that I've gone to in the US are just kind of like one room and you're just kind of trying to solve. But in China there's like multiple rooms, and there's someone guiding you, and there's people that will jump scare you, so I really want to do that too. And then other than that, I would say just like going to the organization events that are hosted, social events, and just kind of finding ways to relax. And I would say walking my dogs, but my dogs are back in the US, so I do really miss them, and that's something I will be taking advantage of during the break, walking my dogs and taking care of my dogs. And then finally, last question, it's from the same person, thank you for that. What made you decide to vlog your journey and upload all these videos to YouTube? I guess just during the summer I was very not bored, but I just didn't have too much to do, I guess, and I always wanted to start a YouTube channel. I feel like a lot of people do kind of have like that kind of desire to upload to YouTube, because it is a very common like entertainment platform. And so I started uploading before I even came to China, and just because once I came to China I was like, I might as well continue with it, right? And I did imagine that some people might be interested in my journey, and I also wanted to vlog my journey for myself and kind of have those memories to look back on. And I think it's been a very fun experience so far, and I think it's a couple years down the line I'm gonna look back at my very stressed and tired self, and I'm just gonna be like, yes, I made it, I'm so proud of you. So I'm going to continue vlogging, and if there's anything else you guys want to see, please let me know. Thank you everyone so much for submitting your questions. Any more questions, please don't hesitate to let me know down below in the comments. If you guys haven't already subscribed and would like more content like this, please consider subscribing, and I'll see you guys in the next one.